Hi, beautiful souls. Here's today's message. The truth about Romans 7, doing what I do not want to do. Romans 7:14 through 25 does not describe a non-believer or a believer that is living according to the flesh. It describes a victorious disciple. It says in Romans 7:15, "For what I am doing, I do not understand. For what I will do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do." What Paul is saying here can seem a bit strange. Why would you do what you do not understand? But Paul is speaking about willfully committing sin, consciously giving in to the desires of the flesh. Because when you willfully commit sin, you know and understand quite well what you are doing. Romans 7:23, another law in my members. Paul was living a crucified life. He was not serving the law of sin with his mind, Romans 7:25. To the extent that he had light, he delighted in the law of God and the inward man, Romans 7:22. That meant that he delighted in love and goodness and mercy. That was his attitude of mind. In those areas where he had received light, he crucified sin in his body. His mind that was serving God stopped these sinful desires. However, there were many areas in Paul's life where he had not yet received light. Here he was taken captive by the law of sin in his flesh, so that he did things that he hated. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members, Romans 7:23. Someone who is willfully committing sin is not doing what he hates because his mind approves of it. When desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. Conception takes place when we consent to the desire with our mind. Then sin is born. James 1:14 through 15. Such a person is serving the law of sin with his mind. Paul was not writing about his kind of sin in Romans 7. He was serving the law of God with his mind, but at the same time, sin that was still present in his flesh would manifest itself without his approval. He was serving the law of sin with his flesh. These reactions from the flesh could come as thoughts or feelings that he had to battle down temptation, or as an actual action or words which never passed his consciousness as a temptation. He received light about these later, realizing they weren't according to God's will, and therefore something he hated, deeds of the body. The law is spiritual, but Paul found that he was carnal, sold under sin. With his mind he served God, but he also noticed that nothing good dwelt in his flesh, Romans 7:18. So with his flesh, he couldn't do anything other than to serve the law of sin. His mind, which served God, was against his flesh, which served sin. And this created an opposition of will in his body, Romans 7:23. But now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me, Romans 7:17. It wasn't Paul, his conscious mind, who did the things he hated, but it was sin that dwelt in him, his flesh. He hadn't seen it. He hadn't received light over it. That is why he exclaims, "O wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from this body of death?" Romans 7:24. I love you, beautiful souls. I pray you have an amazing day today. God bless you. Bye-bye.